Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel's Shadow Spider-Man. Chapter 1. A black-haired boy came out from a cloud of shadows. The black-haired boy had a handsome and slightly immature face. He looked a little tired, but he was more excited because Peter Parker finally launched the prepared spider silk. The contraption was given to him so he could dangle spider silk around at night. It's so good. The black-haired boy is called Link, and he and Peter Parker were bitten by a spider in the museum, so he also has the ability of Spider-Man, but he has awakened different abilities. Link has the ability to travel through shadows, and he also awakened the ability to travel through different worlds. Does not mean that the whole person travels through the past, but his consciousness travels through the past. However, traveling to a different world consumes energy, so he usually only travels once a month. He traveled to a different world last night and saw a woman who drew a knife from her chest. Purple thunder burst out from the woman. It looks extremely scary. With the sword drawn on the chest and the purple thunder, one can guess who it is. This woman is the famous General Thunder and Lightning with milk fragrance. Link knew that she was a character in the game, but he wasn't too surprised. After all, he was in the Marvel Universe now. Link only saw the purple thunder raging, and then woke up the next second. Although it was only a few seconds since he saw General Thunder, he felt that he had consumed a lot of energy, so he was in a daze. Then he received a message from Peter Parker, who told him that the extra silk launcher was ready, and then he hurried to Peter Parker's house. After getting the spider silk launcher, he immediately used the ability of Shadow Escape to return home. Link looked at the spider silk launcher for a while, then put away the spider silk launcher. Let's have a good sleep now. The next day, Link came to school energetically with his school bag on his back. He was then blocked by a tall black man who motioned him to go to the back of the school. Link sighed. These black people have always been discriminated against, but now they always want to discriminate against Asians. Are these people out of their minds? Link knew that this black man wanted to teach him a lesson, and of course he would not sit still. As long as this black man wanted to do something, Link would definitely make him regret it. When he came to the back of the school, the black boy slapped Link. It's really boring. Link grabbed the black boy's hand and slapped the black boy on the face. The black boy staggered far away. He couldn't believe it. How dare the thin Chinese in front of him fight back? Huge anger engulfed the black boy, and he came to Link aggressively, wanting to continue to fight. But in the next second, he was grabbed by Link's head and hit the wall. The huge pain made the black-haired boy frightened, and he hurriedly begged for mercy. Trash. Link left after leaving a sentence. He doesn't like violence very much, but he also knows that violence can make him feel refreshed sometimes, such as now. Link came to the classroom humming a ditty. Peter Parker was already taking it with him in the classroom at this time, and Link didn't bother him when he saw that he was reading, so he came to his seat and sat down. He and Peter Parker seldom have any intersections in school, but they often stay together in private. After all, they are both people with spider abilities. A few minutes later, a pretty girl walked in. This girl is the famous Gwen Stacy, who is now Peter Parker's crush. The relationship between Link and Gwen Stacy is very ordinary. Know how to say hello. If you are not in the mood, just pretend not to see it. Link withdrew his gaze and looked out the window. At this time, the girls with good figures were already exercising, and some of them were developing very well. Link heard someone say that many of the female gymnasts are not virgins anymore, and a handsome blonde guy from their school specially picks prey among the female gymnasts. Link noticed a girl with wheat-colored skin and a pretty face, and he didn't know if she was a virgin. I hope she won't be cheated by a scumbag. Experiment course. Link stood beside Peter Parker with a yawn and said, "It looks so difficult." Peter Parker immediately said, "It's actually not difficult." Then Peter Parker said a lot of Barbara, but Link didn't listen to a word. Gwen Stacy in the same group was impressed by Peter Parker's professional knowledge. Peter Parker, who noticed her gaze, became nervous and made a lot of mistakes. Innocent child. Because of Peter Parker, Link fished very smoothly. At the end of class, Gwen Stacy said, "Peter is very good." Peter Parker was so happy that he flew up, and he stammered in response to Gwen Stacy's words, how can it be, it's all so. Gwen Stacy looked at Link at this time and said, "It's not good to keep fishing." Link said, "You care about me. What's wrong with fishing all the time?" Don't do it if you can't do it, this is his favorite sentence. Gwen Stacy left smiling. Of course she also took Peter Parker's heart. After a while, Peter Parker started to say good things about Gwen Stacy crazily, such as how beautiful she is and how kind she is. Link was a little embarrassed to hear it, so he was not ready to speak, but the more Peter Parker spoke, the more excited he became, and everyone else looked over. Only then did Peter Parker realize the embarrassment, and he left here in a hurry. Link also left here. Afternoon. Link hummed a ditty and walked down the street with his school bag on his back. It can be seen that most people are looking at Link quietly. After all, his face is so outstanding, and it attracts people's attention like magic. Link has long been used to this situation. Anyway, this is not the first time. Just go your own way, no one will come up to talk to him anyway. He thought about it carefully. He didn't have any particularly good friends, not even Peter Parker, because they only met a month ago, and they got together because of the spider's ability, so their relationship and ordinary friends are about the same, not particularly good friends. After Link returned home, there was still no one at home. His parents were both Asian, but they were not his biological parents. He was picked up by his current parents when he was very young. They are still very good to Link, but they are too busy to play with him, but Link doesn't care because he is not a child. Midnight. Link wore a black sweater and a mask and climbed up the glass little by little. Because it was night, there were no people in the building, and basically everyone went home. Link climbed very fast, and he didn't feel tired. On the contrary, he was very excited now, because Link was going to enjoy a bungee jump soon. However, Link still found a blonde woman looking at him in surprise. This woman stayed in the building overnight. She had just come out of the bathroom when she saw a person climbing a tall building with bare hands. Is this something normal people can do? The woman wanted to take out her mobile phone, but in the next second the figure outside the glass was running, and the person outside the window was running on the vertical glass. Isn't this incredible? A moment later, a black figure appeared on the roof, and he sat on the edge of the roof and looked down. Link looked at the spider silk launcher on his wrist. Link pulled it a little, and found that it was firmly fixed. Peter Parker did a good job. Link felt his heart beating violently, so excited. Link let out a breath and rushed out in an instant. Then Link rushed tens of meters, and then Link fell freely. The violent wind hit him, he felt a little cold, and there was a trace of fear. After all, this was the first time he had jumped from a tall building. Just as Link was enjoying the thrill of bungee jumping, a red figure spraying flames rushed in front of Link. The next second Link was hugged. Link, lovebroken, Iron Man in the steel suit said. He was flying around in the suit just now, but he didn't expect to see one falling freely, so he rushed over without thinking. I don't need your help. Link was a little speechless, but Tony Stark had good intentions, so I can't really blame him. I can only blame myself for not choosing a good time. If I sit for a few minutes, then Tony Stark will leave. I can only say bad luck. Link didn't speak. Tony Stark continued. You were green. Link couldn't help but said, my feet slipped. Tony Stark looked at the position where he left the tall building, and then realized that Link was lying. How could he fly to this position with a slippery foot? And go skating on the roof at night? Tony Stark thinks Link wants to die. He is going to be a psychiatrist. Men always have to experience emotional setbacks. Of course I don't. After all, I'm rich, you know. As long as you have money and a little tenderness, girls will fall in love with you, so work hard to become rich. Tony Stark spoke, and he thought he was right. Link felt that Tony Stark was showing off. This guy was showing off naked. Link said, let me go. Tony Stark began to continue counseling, and he didn't feel like he was showing off at all. Link's expression became a little awkward. Is this guy so annoying? And why do you feel so angry? Link now feels like punching Tony Stark. After a long time, Tony Stark brought Link to the ground, and said with a smile, little guy, don't seek death, your life is still very long. Link looked back at Tony Stark and said, you have to cherish the time. Link's implication is that you don't have much time. Obviously Tony Stark didn't think of this. He tilted his head and said, I cherish time very much, and soon I will date a female reporter. Goodbye then, brat. Quote, Link, really unlucky. Link yawned and walked on the street. Because it was night, there were very few people. Even if there were people, they probably weren't good people. After all, that good person wandered around with a gun at night. Link found that basically everyone who wanders the streets carries a gun. Of course, he didn't bring a gun. After all, he didn't think he needed a gun. At this time, Link's eyes fell on a desert eagle. Link's eyes were ready to move. The desert eagle was very handsome, and Link was a little moved by how handsome he was, because his parents were a little against guns. Although they had guns, they didn't plan to let Link use them. Link sighed. If he could, he would also want to grab it. Unfortunately, the parents who adopted him didn't plan to give him a gun. Aren't they afraid of something unexpected happening to him? Link poked a few dollars out of his trouser pocket. He didn't grab the gun for an excuse, but to try the quality of the United States. After all, this is a beautiful country. Link walked swaggeringly on the street. 3 minutes later, Link was stopped by a young man with a knife. The young man was obviously robbing for the first time, so he seemed a little nervous. The young man didn't intend to rob at first, but Link swaggered around with a few dollars in his pocket. It seemed to him that Link was seducing him to rob. Although a few dollars were not much, it was enough for him to live for a day or two, which is very important for a homeless person. So the youth robbed Link. Hand over the money. The young man looked at Link and said. Link looked at the young man and said, "Do you only have a knife?" The young man was very nervous at this time. Facing Link's words, he replied honestly, "Only the knife." Hearing what the young man said, Link lost interest. He looked at the young man and said, "I don't deserve to rob me without a gun." Link swaggered away. The young man froze for a moment, and then became angry the next second. How dare an Asian boy despise him? The young man rushed towards Link, and then stabbed the knife in Link's back. Link, who has a spider sense, naturally sensed the danger. Link turned around and easily grabbed the young man's hand, and then Link kicked the young man away. He has restrained a lot of strength, otherwise the young man with all his strength will be kicked to death by him. Although a lot of strength has been restrained, it is still difficult for an ordinary person like a young man to bear. The young man rolled a few times on the ground, and then lay motionless. Link's kick directly made him lose his ability to move. The young man also calmed down a lot. He regretted why he robbed him, but how would he spend tomorrow without robbing himself? The young man lay on the ground panting quietly. Link left without hesitation. He was already kind to those who wanted to rob him. If it were someone with a bad temper, he might have already let the youth get shot. Link continued to walk on the street swaggeringly. Soon he was pointed at the head by a man with a gun. Just as he was about to snatch the gun, Spider-Man fell from the sky and took the man's gun away. Before Link could speak, Spider-Man threw the gun into the river. Link didn't know what to say for a while. The man is controlled by Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man and Link leave together. "Link, are you also here to fight criminals?" Spider-Man said. He is very happy now, because Link is very similar to him, just like a confidant. "No, Uncle Ben came to commit crimes." Link looked at Spider-Man calmly. How could this guy come here? Without him, he would have a gun. Peter Parker crawls on the shadowy walls, while Link walks under the streetlights. "You're so busy." Link couldn't help but said. He had to study hard during the day and sometimes he had to become Spider-Man to help others. Peter Parker was actually very busy all the time, spinning like a spinning top. "Link, come help too. You should be able to help more people, so that I have someone to talk to." Peter Parker said. He hoped that Link could help other people with him, so that he could save there were more people, and it would reassure him a little bit that he wasn't alone after all. Link looked at Spider-Man helplessly and said, "I can't do it, but when I meet someone who needs help, I will take a little action, so you will be the hero of justice." Spider-Man looked at Link and said, "I know, but that's fine, we can't save the whole world, so let's save the people in front of us." At this moment Link stopped, looked at Spider-Man and said, "I'm going home, how about you?" If Spider-Man also wants to go home, then he can use the ability of Shadow Escape to send Spider-Man home, so he asked Spider-Man. Spider-Man looked at the time and said, Go home too. By the way, see if there is anyone who needs help on the way to my house. Goodbye then." Spider-Man begins to climb up the wall. A shadow appeared under Link's feet, but he touched his head hesitantly, and then the shadow under his feet dissipated. Walk home. Link took a step forward. Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for almost half a month, and there have been more rumors about Spider-Man recently. Most people think that Spider-Man is a good guy. Of course, some people resist Spider-Man, such as the police. Like Spider-Man, Link saw Peter Parker reading the comments one time, and couldn't help mumbling something. At that time, Peter Parker's face was very ugly, probably because he was overwhelmed by the comments, but half an hour later Peter Parker turned into Spider-Man to help others. What a kind person. Link sighed. Not everyone with power will become a hero, just like he doesn't want to be a hero, he just wants to be himself, don't cause trouble for others, and don't do illegal things. Link doesn't understand why people are always seduced by desire. Is desire really hard to control? After walking for a few minutes, Link saw a young man who was prying out the car window. The young man concentrated on prying on the car window, but did not notice Link's arrival. Link raised his wrist, and then launched a ball of spider silk, which precisely glued the young man's hand and the car window together. The sudden change made the young man a little scared. He wanted to turn around, but Link shot another ball of spider silk and stuck his head to the car window. It was impossible for ordinary people to break free, so Link turned and left. This guy probably you'll be caught by the police in minutes. Hope this guy can turn over a new leaf. Then Link didn't meet anyone, nor did he meet any bad guys. So Link returned home very quickly, but his parents still didn't come back. Link remembered that it took him a month to come back. After all, his parents' job was to travel all over the world. Although it was hard work, the salary was also very high. Link came to the refrigerator. Link opened the refrigerator and took out a bottle of Coke, then went back to his room. At this time, he didn't feel sleepy, so he turned on the computer and started playing games. The next morning, Link yawned and went to school with his school bag on his back. Link stayed up all night, and now he feels a little disconnected from his soul and body, which is a bad feeling. Link saw the girl with wheat-colored skin walking in front, and beside her was a blonde boy who was quite handsome. They should be a couple, right? Link remembers the girl and the boy next to her. The girl is the sports student he often watches in class, and the boy is a scumbag who likes to hunt for girls everywhere. It is said that many girls dropped out of school because of him. Link was a little unhappy. Obviously he was still a little virgin. The blonde boy in front of him had already started to cast a net to catch fish. It was too much. The scumbag was going to hold the girl's hand, but the girl avoided it, and the girl also noticed Link. The girl knew Link. After all, Link always looked at her from the window. She didn't find Link's gaze annoying. After all, Link's face couldn't be hated. After all, he was so handsome. The girl quite likes the feeling of being watched by Link, because she will feel that she is excellent and outstanding. After all, Link's eyes will not stay too much on a girl. The girl trotted up to Link, hugged Link and said, "You're here." Link understood in an instant that the girl was using him as a shield. Although he didn't like it, he didn't like such a beautiful girl being harmed by a scumbag, so Link said very cooperatively, "I'm coming." The blonde boy came to Link and said, "Are you a couple?" Both Link and the girl nodded. The blonde boy left decisively. "You can call me Anne, and thank you just now. I hate him very much, but he always pesters me, it's really annoying." The girl pulled a little distance away and said, although being pestered by the blonde boy was annoying, but it was also thanks to this, she had the opportunity to get close to Link. "You can call me Link." After Link finished speaking, he walked forward. He didn't like being used by others, even if there was a reason for it, he hated it. This is a golden opportunity, and Annie will not let it go easily. She came to Link in a hurry, talked about her troubles, and then apologized to Link because she used Link just now. Seeing Annie's sincere attitude, Link couldn't blame her, so Link's expression softened a little. Annie and Link talked a lot until they separated. As soon as Link entered the classroom, he was watched by most people. Link was used to it, so he didn't care. He sat in his seat. She shouldn't be training at this time, right? Link looked out the window curiously. There are only a few people running on the playground. Is she changing clothes? Link looked away. After the second class, Link heard someone calling himself outside the window. Link looked out the window and found that Annie was waving her hands and looking at him happily. Annie's smile is contagious, so Link can't help but smile too. Annie immediately took out a drawing board, and she wrote on it, "No wonder you look familiar, so your class is here. Are you being ignored?" Link was a little depressed for a while. Link saw Peter Parker leaving the classroom with his school bag after class, and he didn't need to think about it. He also knew that Peter Parker had gone to help the old lady cross the road. Link had no intention of helping others. He walked slowly on the street with his school bag on his back. At this time Ned came to Link and said, "Are you going to Peter's house?" Link didn't know Ned very well, and he had no intention of going to Peter Parker's house, so Link shook his head and said, "No." Ned nodded and left quickly. Ned and Peter Parker had a good relationship, and they often played together in private, but Peter Parker didn't tell Ned that he was Spider-Man, hoping that Peter Parker's Spider-Man identity would be revealed. "When you find out, you won't tell him too." Link plans to find a place to drink something. It wasn't long before he met Gwen Stacy and a handsome boy in a soda shop. Before Link could speak, Gwen Stacy greeted him. "Hi, Link." Gwen Stacy's voice was clear and loud. Even if Link wanted to pretend he didn't hear it, he couldn't help it. Link looked at the boy and Gwen Stacy calmly and said, "Wow. What a coincidence, and are you dating?" Gwen Stacy smiled and said nothing. She invited Link to sit at a table with them. But Link didn't want to be a light bulb, so he said, "I bought some things and left. I had a good time." Gwen Stacy didn't push it either. Link bid farewell to Gwen Stacy and his party, bought a cold drink and left here. Before leaving, Gwen Stacy waved to Link. Link also waved his hand politely. Poor Parker. Unexpectedly, Gwen Stacy already had a boyfriend. Link took a sip of his cold drink. There are still quite a lot of people here. Link saw a young man performing on the street. He was not interested in what the young man was performing, so he didn't watch it. Some talented homeless people here will make money like this for living expenses. "Hooah!" Spider-Man screamed, crashing into a car. "Link, are your hands slipping?" That's when Spider-Man got up. Boom! A man with a strange weapon jumped down from a tall building. Boom! The man blasted Spider-Man away with the weapon in his hand, and the loud sound made the timid people scream. Link saw a woman in a suit bend over and then quickly leave the vicinity. The woman's movements are very skilled, and she probably often encounters this situation. Link didn't leave. He looked at Spider-Man and the young man with the weapon. At this time, Spider-Man also saw Link, but Spider-Man didn't say anything, because now is not the time to reminisce with Link. Link is not sure if Spider-Man wants to help, so let's wait and see for now. Link came to the corner to watch Spider-Man fight the man. Hope Spider-Man can beat this man. The man's weapon is very powerful, and it can always cause a lot of trouble for Spider-Man. For a while, Spider-Man and the man came to a stalemate. Spider-Man raised a car and threw it at the man, but the next second the man used his weapon to blast the car Spider-Man threw into parts. Boom! Spider-Man's fist landed on the man's face. The man's body was blown away in an instant, and after being punched by Spider-Man, the man fainted directly. Spider-Man was also relieved to see the man pass out, and he left before the police arrived. Although the battle between Spider-Man and the man was very short, there were many things destroyed. Link found that some people's faces were full of fear. It seemed that they were really scared. But it is also understandable. After all, the aftermath of the battle between Spider-Man and the man can easily kill ordinary people. So it is understandable to be afraid. Link took a sip of the cold drink, and the police arrived a few seconds later, and arrested the man as soon as the police arrived. Link left here, but he met Spider-Man hanging on the wall around the corner. "What's wrong?" Link asked, tilting his head. "Someone is selling a very powerful weapon. You saw it just now. Such a weapon is very powerful. I need you," Spider-Man said. He felt that he could not solve such a thing. Link tilted his head. The Kuritas have not yet invaded the Earth. How did these strange technologies come about? However, there are still many aliens living on the Earth, and they can understand why there are such weapons. But Link still didn't intend to make a move. He pointed to the big screen of Tony Stark and said, "You need his help, trust me, just ask him for technology-related matters, and don't tell others that it also possesses the same strength as yours." Spider-Man looked at Link. He was somewhat resistant to Iron Man's help. He hoped that Link would help him, but now it seems that Link is not willing to help him. which makes him a little disappointed, but this is also in line with the character of leaving Link. Seeing that Spider-Man was reluctant, Link continued, Tony Stark is very powerful in technology. You should know this, so it is the best choice to go to him. If you are alone, then not only are you in danger, but even ordinary people nearby are in danger, so for them you should go to Tony Stark. After Link finished speaking, he looked at Spider-Man seriously. Spider-Man thought for a moment and said, I see. After speaking, Spider-Man climbed the wall and left. Link took a sip of his cold drink, hoping that Tony Stark wouldn't find out that he, too, had abilities similar to Peter Parker's. Otherwise, he might be dragged into a fight with Captain America. The neighbors of Link's family are a Japanese family. Every day when they see foreigners, they bend over and talk, which makes them feel a little servile. Link doesn't like these little Japanese very much. Hypocrisy and affectation are really annoying. Hello, Mr. Link. A woman in a kimono looked at Link with a gentle look and said. Link frowned, he pretended not to hear and continued walking. Hello, Link-kun. The woman in kimono approached Link and said. Link couldn't pretend anymore. He looked back at the woman in front of him. He always felt that this woman looked a bit like an AV actress. He smiled and said, Hello, Miss Xiaolin. The woman in front of her is Xiaolin. She came here alone with her daughter, about 2 years ago. Her daughter is a very cute girl, but she is very arrogant, not like a little Japan at all. He doesn't like Kobayashi and her daughter in general. Will Mr. Lin K come to my house for dinner tonight? Xiaolin asked. She actually wanted to match Link and her daughter, so she invited Link to her house for dinner. Have a meal. Is this kind of bridge? Link made up a lot of things banned in the 18th century, then shook his head decisively and said, Sorry. I still have things to do. Kobayashi nodded and did not continue to say anything. In the evening, Peter Parker sent a message to Link saying that Ned had discovered his identity as Spider-Man. This made Link a little speechless. Peter Parker had only been Spider-Man for a little over a month. How could Ned find out so quickly? But no matter what, you will find out anyway. Link immediately reminded Peter Parker to tell Ned about him after receiving the news from Peter Parker. Peter Parker was quick to message back. Peter Parker says he won't tell Ned about Link. Link and Peter Parker chatted for a while before ending the conversation. When Link came to the classroom the next morning, Ned and Peter Parker didn't know what they were talking about, probably about Spider-Man. Link also didn't deliberately listen to what they were talking about. Link turned his head and looked out the window. Annie was already exercising in the morning, and Annie was showing off her beautiful waist. Annie can be said to be a person who can make people fantasize anytime, anywhere. Annie can easily charm people like a succubus. No wonder there are always so many boys around Annie trying to get close to her. Beautiful, a thing that makes people sneer at but cannot be discarded. Everyone seems to be decent in front of beauty, but they have already possessed it in their hearts. Link looked away and looked into the distance. Link, who was immersed in his own world, did not notice the changes in the outside world. Until Peter Parker pushed him. Link, who was awakened, looked dissatisfied at the person who woke him up. If there was no good reason, he would not show a good face. Peter Parker pointed out the window and said, Someone is calling you. Link was not so angry that the person who woke him up was Peter Parker, and he looked out the window. At this time, Annie, who was holding the drawing board, was looking at him helplessly. Before Link could say anything, Annie waved her hand and left quickly, so what did Annie want to do? It is impossible for Link to know the answer for the time being. But Peter Parker looked at Link in surprise and said, You know Annie. Acquaintance is acquaintance but not very familiar. He and Annie don't have much intersection. The two of them are like in two worlds. Link nodded. The acquaintance is just a few words. That's it. Peter Parker didn't believe it, because just now Annie wrote on the drawing board that they would eat together at noon. Would they eat together if they were unfamiliar? Could it be that the two are secretly in love? Peter Parker left with suspicion. Noon. Annie, why are you here? Thompson stood up straight and said. At this time, he was being watched by people, so he had to stand up and show his good side to others, and Thompson was still secretly happy. How about it? Are Annie and I a good match? Annie looked at the flirtatious young man in front of her, tilted her head and said, I'm here to find someone. Annie walked around Thompson and walked towards Link under the eyes of the people. Annie blinked at Link and said, I treat you to dinner as a repayment for your kindness. Annie spoke very quietly because she didn't want others to hear. Link looked at Annie and said, no need. Annie didn't leave. She looked at Link and said, I don't want to owe you favors, so I treat you to dinner. Seeing that Annie was very persistent, it was hard for Link to refuse. He thought that Annie would leave after being rejected by him for the first time, but it seems that she did not. You know each other. Seeing Annie and Link talking, someone couldn't help but say. Annie rolled her eyes and said with a smile, actually, we are a couple. After all, she used this excuse to get rid of an annoying spirit before, so it should be fine to use this excuse now. I hope that there will not be too many people pestering her in the future. Hearing Annie's words, Link was a little depressed. Annie would make it impossible for him to find a girlfriend. But in terms of his womanhood, it is estimated that it is impossible to find a girlfriend, so he will not be so angry and depressed when he thinks about it. Annie's words naturally caused an uproar. You must know that Annie is the perfect embodiment of innocence and lust in the school. It can be said that she is the goddess of thousands of boys. And what about Link? Although he looks very withdrawn, it is undeniable that this guy is also a super handsome guy, so handsome that he can be licked by the opposite gender. But it is very difficult to get close to Link, because he always disappears inexplicably. After all, he can escape. Now Anne's words had no intention of dropping a blockbuster on the calm water, leaving everyone in a daze. Annie and Link left together, but Peter Parker felt something strange. He can be sure that Link has no one he likes, but why does Annie say it's Link's girlfriend? Could it be that Link was used as a shield? This is indeed possible. After all, both Link and Annie are very good-looking people, so the relationship between Link and Annie on the surface will indeed convince many people. After all, they are both talented and beautiful. Let's go to Link's house to ask at night. Link and Annie separated after a peaceful meal, and Annie really came to repay the favor. All day today, the boys looked at him not very friendly, most of them were contemptuous. After all, most white people discriminated against people of other skin colors, such as Asians and blacks. Link doesn't like this environment very much. Of course, if someone provokes him, he will hit hard. There is only one class in the afternoon, so they leave school at 3 o'clock. When Link was on his way home, he saw a beautiful girl with black straight hair taking $100 from a young white man. Link's complexion remained unchanged, but the complexion of the beautiful girl with straight black and long hair changed drastically. She bid farewell to the white youth in a hurry and came to Link. I'm just pretending to be his girlfriend, we're innocent, we haven't slept, we haven't even kissed, you know, my mother works very hard, please don't tell my mother. Hazy Chang, the beautiful girl, is the daughter of Link's little Japanese neighbor. Link didn't know whether he should believe the girl's words, but these had nothing to do with him, so Link said, I won't say anything. This kind of profession is easy to degenerate. I don't believe you, the straight black girl said while pulling Link. Link shook the girl's hand away and said, believe it or not. The straight black girl looked at Link with pleading eyes, and even a hint of jealousy. I know you have always looked down on me, and you always look down on me with a superior attitude. The black straight girl's eye circles turned red. She once wanted to have a relationship with Linka, but Link always kept a proper distance from her. It hurt her very young. Link didn't look down on girls, he just didn't want to play with girls. After dealing with the troublesome neighbor girl, Link opened his door and walked in. Before he went in, he saw the neighbor girl looking at him with distrust. Link is a little helpless about this. He doesn't care about the girl next door at all, whether she is depraved or just to make a little money to supplement the family. It has nothing to do with him, everyone just needs to be themselves. Link closed the door and sat on the sofa in the living room. His shadow escape ability can almost cover the entire Earth. Let me just say that he can go to any place on the Earth through the shadow at will, which is very abnormal ability. And can also be used in combat. For example, Link can shoot spider silk at the shadow under his feet, and then Link can choose where the spider silk that enters the shadow will come out. This is an ability that is very suitable for sneak attacks. But it's a pity that Peter Parker doesn't have the ability to awaken, otherwise he would have fought much easier. So what to do next? Link tilted his head and decided to continue playing the game, since he was free anyway. Noon the next day, Peter Parker stopped Link, and Peter Parker's purpose was to exercise his fighting ability, so he wanted to fight Link. At first Link thought it was troublesome and didn't want to help, but when Peter Parker said that he would hand over all the experimental classes to him in the future, Link nodded and agreed without hesitation. What he hates the most is that the experimental class is so troublesome. Now that Peter Parker said to leave it to him, then Link can't live up to Peter Parker's wishes. After seeing Link's agreement, Peter Parker immediately took Link out of the school. About 10 minutes later, Peter Parker took Link to the abandoned factory, where Peter Parker had observed for many days that basically no one came, so it was very suitable for him to fight Link. The recent battle with criminals made him realize that his fighting ability is not outstanding. Although he can use strength and agility to eliminate this effect, he will appear passive when facing strong enemies, so he wants to find Link fights. He wants to use Link to hone himself. At this moment, Link looked at Peter Parker and said, "My way of fighting may be a little despicable." Peter Parker nodded and said, "Come on. I'm ready. Then here I come." As soon as Link finished speaking, Peter Parker was ready. But in the next second, Link's figure instantly entered the shadow under his feet. Peter Parker knew that this was Link's special ability, but as long as he concentrated on using the spider sensor, he could capture the direction of Link's attack and counterattack. But in the next second, a large number of spider silks flew out from the shadows. Once these spider silks hit the target, they would turn into spider webs, so they couldn't be hit. This was the spider silk he made himself, so he knew very well the effect of it. Although Peter Parker is confident of breaking free from the shackles of the spider webs, he will face Link's attack next, which is too dangerous, so he has to avoid a huge number of spider webs. Come on, spider sense. Peter Parker avoided most of the spider silk, and it was not too difficult for him to avoid these spider silks. At this time Link suddenly rushed out from the shadows, targeting Peter Parker. Link's speed was so fast that Peter Parker's spider sensor detected danger, but he didn't have enough time to dodge. Peter Parker protected his head, and the next second Link's fist landed on Peter Parker's arm. The huge force in an instant knocked Peter Parker back several steps. Peter Parker felt a little pain in his hand, but it was still within a tolerable range. Peter Parker thought back to Link's powerful punch just now, and then continued to be wary of Link. But the next second Link smiled and said, "You lost." Peter Parker became vigilant, and then he found that he was forced by Link to a shadowy place. Peter Parker already understood what was going to happen, and he wanted to leave here, but the overwhelming spider webs flew out from the shadows, and these cobwebs also blocked his movements. Peter Parker avoided 2 spider webs, but the spider webs flying together from 4 different directions made it difficult for him, because no matter how he avoided, he would be hit by the spider webs. After Peter Parker was hit by the spider web, Link rushed to Peter Parker and said, "This time I won." Boom! Link knocked Peter Parker into the air forcefully, hoping that the pain would make him take the fight more seriously. Peter Parker's body rolled on the ground several times, and his clothes were also worn out. Peter Parker lay on the ground panting for a while and then said, "You are really amazing. Much better than I imagined." Link smiled and said, "It's not bad. After all, I have the ability of shadow escape." Peter Parker smiled and said, "If you lose, but next time I won't lose so easily." Then Peter Parker fought Link for a while before going home. Link originally wanted to use the ability of shadow escape to send Peter Parker home, but Peter Parker refused, because he might meet someone who needs help on the way home. So Link didn't say anything. He was very supportive of Peter Parker's behavior. Link chose to leave the ability of Shadow Dungeon to go home. Because there was not enough food, Link left the house again to buy food. This time he met the girl next door, Shaolin's daughter. The straight black girl smiled like a flower and waved her hands at a young man, looking like a couple who were about to say goodbye. But in the next second, an accident happened. A tall white man grabbed the girl's wrist and said, "Are you dating the person just now? Why can't it be me?" The girl shook the white man's hand away and said, "Get out of the way." The white man had said before that he wanted to pursue her, but the next day he came out of the hotel with a black woman. Although she didn't care about the white man, she also put the white man in the trash. She didn't want to have anything to do with the man in front of her. The man couldn't help but said, "Bitcha. Did the man just now make you happy?" The girl's face turned gloomy for a moment. She just acted as the young man's girlfriend and went shopping with him, and the young man just now was a gentleman and did not behave inappropriately at all. The man in front of him is really disgusting. Her eyes fell on Link, who was carrying the bag. He probably also felt that he was a fallen person. He should feel disgusted. Seeing the girl's eyes on Link, the man wanted to slap the girl in the face angrily. The girl was so frightened by the man's brutality that she closed her eyes. But a few seconds later she heard screams. She opened her eyes suspiciously, only to find that Link was standing in front of her, and the man who wanted to hit her just now left with his hands clutching his wrists and howling. The girl pursed her lips and said, "I don't need your help." Link is too lazy to talk to the girl. "Why do you want to help me?" The straight and long beautiful girl's eyes fell on Link's face. She would rather receive a slap than accept Link's help. Her eyes look a little sharp and piercing, which is what Link doesn't like about this girl. She will always be inexplicably hostile to Link. This made Link very unhappy. Link carried his things and said, "Sorry, I won't help you next time." Link turned to leave, but the straight-haired girl took his hand and said, "Since I owe you a favor, I will pay you back." "Tell me, how should I repay your favor?" The straight black girl looked at Link seriously. Seeing the girl with a tough attitude, Link couldn't help laughing. Did this guy do something wrong? How does it feel like he owes the girl money? Link pulled the girl away and said, "No need." The girl stood in front of Link again and said, "I can be a maid to help you clean the house." "Huh, no need, my house is very clean, and are you annoying?" Link said impatiently. Why does he feel that this person has some purpose? Link bypasses the girl and leaves. The girl looked at the back of Link leaving. She pursed her lips. Is it really too difficult? In his mind, he probably is a shameless and promiscuous woman. Since he is like this, then let's be even more shameless. The girl caught up with Link again and said, "Either go to my house for dinner, or let me be your maid to take care of the housework, you choose one." Link ignored the girl. Seeing that Link ignored him, the girl continued to pester him. Then Link and the girl were taken to the police station because a female policeman saw their entanglement, so she took them to the police station. "What did you do to her?" The policewoman looked at Link seriously. Handsome boys always use their appearance to confuse other girls, and the young man in front of him can easily confuse anyone. "What are you thinking? It is important to handle the case." The female policeman hurriedly shook off her distracting thoughts. Link told the policewoman what happened before. The female policeman looked at the girl with straight hair and long hair. If it was the same as what Link said, then it is very likely that the girl fell in love with the boy and pestered him like this. "Irene, come here," a male policeman said. The policewoman in front of Link got up and left. Seeing the policewoman leave Hazy Chang, the girl looked at Link and said, "If you don't want things to become troublesome, then choose one. Do you want me to be a maid or go to my house for dinner?" Link looked at the straight-haired girl and said seriously, "Little Lin Jasmine, are you threatening me?" Link's feeling towards Jasmine Zhaolin is getting worse and worse. Is there something wrong with this guy? The more unhappy Link was, the more he wanted to fight Jasmine Lin to the end. He wanted to see what kind of mess this girl could make. Let's just say here that Jasmine Zhaolin is a girl's name. Seeing that Link was not subdued at all, Jasmine Zhaolin sent a message to Link's adoptive parents in a panic. Link's adoptive parents have a good relationship with Jasmine Lin. Link's adoptive parents quickly sent Jasmine Lin a reassuring expression. About 10 minutes later, the policewoman Erin came with Link's adoptive parents and Zhaolin Jasmine's mother. Zhaolin Jasmine's mother looked at Zhaolin Jasmine with a frosty face. "This is the first time I have seen Lin K like this, so I must be really angry now." Afterwards, Link and Jasmine Zhaolin, who looked terrified, were taken to Zhaolin's house. Zhaolin wants to apologize for Zhaolin Moli's matter, so he invites Link's family to dinner. Although Link doesn't want to eat, but his adoptive parents are there, he can't leave. Although Jasmine Zhaolin was reprimanded, this guy also set up a persona who loves Link deeply, and this guy will use this persona to harass Link in the future. This guy might be plotting against him. Is this guy trying to make trouble for him? Tisk, I'm so upset. At this time, Jasmine Lin was cleaning weeds in the yard. Link's adoptive parents saw Jasmine Lin weeding and asked Link to help. There is no way Link came to the yard and pretended to clean up the weeds. His eyes fell on Zhaolin Jasmine, who saw Xiaolin Jasmine showing a sweet smile and saying, "Thank you." Link sang. Link looked at Jasmine Xiaolin and said, "Is this interesting?" Xiaolin Jasmine approached and left, then smiled and said, "It's very interesting." Because you can see Link Sang's frustrated expression, it's really cute. Link couldn't help but said, "I helped you just now, and you treated me like this." Xiaolin Jasmine tilted her head and said affectionately, "Because I like Link Sang, so I can do anything. After all, he is a love brain. Oh, now it is a sick girl who loves a brain-sick girl. You have to be careful." Link felt that there was something wrong with Jasmine Xiaolin. Link was no longer talking to Jasmine Lin, he began to concentrate on fishing and weeding. Jasmine Xiaolin looked at Link. Does she like Link? When I was a child. The moment she saw Link when she was a child, she felt that Link was an angel. She was very good looking. At that time, she liked Link very much, but Link seemed to hate her very much and always ignored her. Gradually, she didn't like Link that much, and now she didn't like Link either, and even hated him a bit. But now that Link is deflated or not easy, she will find it interesting. Afterwards, when the two sat together to eat, Xiaolin seemed very happy, and Link was the only one who was unhappy here. Seeing that Link was unhappy, Jasmine Xiaolin smiled cheerfully. Link sang, "Eat more meat. After all, weeding just now seems so strenuous. Eating more meat will give you strength." Xiaolin Jasmine said cheerfully, holding a piece of meat for Link. Link pretended not to hear. He ate the meat Jasmine Xiaolin picked up and said, "Thank you." Xiaolin Molly was taken aback for a moment, and then quickly showed a subtle expression. A meal is over quickly. Link hurried home, but Jasmine Lin also chased after him. Link looked at Jasmine Lin in his living room and said, "You're annoying. Is it too busy? If you're too busy, why not start your work? Maybe you can earn a little more money." Xiaolin Jasmine smiled, then sat on the sofa and said, "How about I date you?" "No money." Link tilted his head and said, "No need." Jasmine Xiaolin blew on Link and said, "I'm still a virgin. Do you want to try it? After all, your parents are chatting with my mother at my house. If you hurry up, maybe you can come a few more times." Link got up and grabbed Jasmine Xiaolin's clothes and threw Jasmine Lin out of the house roughly. This guy really didn't know how to restrain himself. "You've been very popular recently. Do you think you're proud of dating Annie?" A blonde boy suddenly appeared in front of Link on Monday and said. Link was taken aback for a moment, and then realized that Annie had said that she was his girlfriend before, which meant that this young man was interested in Annie, but because of his own reasons, there was no drama now, so he came to tease him when he was a little angry. Link felt that the boy's behavior was stupid, because he did not make Annie change her mind, and made himself feel bad about him. Link looked at the boy and said, "Annie is very cute." Hearing Link's words, the blonde boy's first thought was that Link was provoking him. He knew that Annie was cute. The moment he knew that Annie was dating Link, he thought it was an April Fool's joke. But at that time, the expressions of his friends were a little serious, so he had to admit that this was a fact that broke his heart. Why would Annie fall in love with an Asian? Is it because he is handsome enough? Looking at Link in front of him, the blonde boy wanted to teach Link a lesson. Just when the atmosphere is getting more and more tense, Annie appeared on the stage. As soon as she came to Link and looked at the blonde boy and said, "Rick, don't make me hate you." The blonde boy moved his mouth, but Annie pulled Link away before he said anything. Link looked at Anne and said, "It looks like you're very popular." Annie smiled and said, "It's okay. By the way, I have something else to do. Goodbye." Annie let go of Link's hand, then walked away quickly. When Link came to the classroom, he found that most of them were looking at him, and he was used to it. As soon as he sat down in his seat, Peter Parker came to Link and said, "Rick will talk about physical education with our class in the afternoon. I feel that he will embarrass you, so be careful." Hearing Peter Parker's words, Link tilted his head and said, "I see." Hearing Link's casual answer, Peter Parker knew that Link didn't take Rick seriously. But after all, Link is more handsome than Rick and has extraordinary power, so naturally he doesn't take Rick seriously. But it's really enviable. A beautiful girl like Annie is Link's girlfriend. Peter Parker returned to his place with envy. At this moment, Ned looked at Peter Parker and said, "Link is handsome. He is tall enough, handsome enough, and he's so cool. This is a kingly character in a film and television drama. Is it so powerful? Peter Parker said in surprise. Why did he feel that Link was deified? Time passed little by little. During physical education class in the afternoon, Rick was showing off his presence crazily, but Link's attention didn't fall on him at all, which made Rick very aggrieved. Rick patted the basketball and came to Link and said, "Play a game with me." At this moment, Link raised his head. He looked at the blonde boy in front of him suspiciously and said, "Are you fighting?" Rick twitched his face, and then said, "It's playing basketball." Link shook his head. Seeing that Link didn't nod, Rick said, "Don't you dare. Or are you afraid of losing to me? Are you afraid of losing face?" Rick's words were a little sharp. Link thought for a while and then said, "Why don't you feel ashamed if you don't play basketball with you? I don't even know the rules of basketball, but you want to play basketball with me. Isn't it like you taking the teacher to give the answer to the exam, and I use the knowledge of elementary school to compete with you in the exam? Do you think this is fair? The one who should be ashamed is you." Quote. Listening to Link's words, Rick blushed for a moment. He never thought that someone would not play basketball, and he said it's so funny. "Wow, Link looks so handsome," a cheerleader girl said. At this time, Rick thought for a while and said, "If you pass me with the basketball and throw it into the hoop, you win, otherwise I win, how about it?" Hearing Rick's words, Link sighed slightly and said, "Then come on." Oh ho ho ho. The people became excited and set aside the space. Rick threw the ball to Link, and said with an extremely confident expression, "Come on." And Rick also made a squinting action, which made some teenagers laugh, but most girls thought Rick was too much, because squinting is an action that discriminates against Asians. The girls began to dislike Rick. How could Link be discriminated against for being so handsome? Link's expression darkened. Link bent over and slapped the basketball towards Rick. Rick shot towards the basketball with sharp eyes and quick hands. But in the next second, the basketball was thrown by Link. "Is it behind?" Rick looked back, but that's when the basketball landed on his head. Link said calmly, "Do you like to catch balls with your head?" Ha ha ha. Some girls who disliked Rick laughed outright. Rick felt his face burn, and he looked at Link and put on a defensive stance. Link slapped the basketball and charged at Rick. Rick is much taller than Link, so such a direct collision is not friendly to Link. But in the next second, Link directly knocked Rick into the air, and Link passed Rick with a super slam dunk. Because Link was a little angry, he used a little force, and the backboard shattered. "Oh, God, he must be very strong, I really want to try it with him." A cheerleader girl couldn't help but said, "She is handsome and has a strong physique, which is very fascinating." Rick looked at Link a little at a loss, he felt like he had become a clown. Link slapped the basketball and said, "Are you happy?" Here's what to say to Rick. How could it be possible to be happy? Rick was crazily insulting Link. He got up and moved his body, and then shook his fist directly at Link. Link looked at Rick and he hated him, so let him suffer a little bit. Link dodges Rick's fist, then kicks Rick flying. Rick was directly kicked by Link and couldn't stand up. It took a few minutes for Rick to stand up. At this time, people realized what happened and hurriedly stopped Rick. Of course, the cheerleading girls' eyes lit up, and then they pretended to hold Link, but in fact their hands were stroking Link's muscles. The girls became excited after touching it for a moment. Link's face changed slightly, he pushed the girls away and said, "I won't do it." "You won't, we will." The girls screamed frantically inside. Because Link smashed the glass on the basket, he was naturally called by the teacher to talk in the office. "Link, I know you." This was the first sentence the principal said. He did know Link, and he didn't just lie to Link. He also knew Link's parents, who used to be classmates. Hearing what the principal said, Link also said, "I know you too." After all, the principal still gave several speeches, and he met the principal during the principal's speech. The principal smiled and said, "Do you have any conflicts with Rick?" Link said, "It's not a contradiction, it's just that Rick came to trouble me unilaterally." After the headmaster asked Link a few things about him and Rick, he let him go. When Link left, he saw Annie leaning against the wall at the door. She should have come after he entered the principal's office. Was she worried about herself? There is nothing to worry about. Are you okay? Annie looked at Link and said curiously. Link shook his head and said, "It's okay, and why are you here?" Annie said, "Because I'm worried about you. I didn't expect you to damage the rim. The facilities in the school are too unsafe. What if you get injured?" Annie started to complain, and Link smashed the backboard. It was obvious that there was something wrong with the school facilities, so the school should check all the school equipment to avoid problems. Link's other equipment in the school is not very good, but the rebound is good, but he broke it with a little force. Not long after that, Link's adoptive parents came. As soon as they arrived, Link's adoptive mother hugged Link and said worriedly, "Are you all right? Did you get hurt?" Link shook his head and said, "Sorry for causing trouble to you." He was also a little hot at the time, and if he took a little effort, he wouldn't let his adoptive parents come here, which made him a little guilty. As soon as Link finished speaking, his adoptive parents laughed. They all thought it was a problem with the school facilities. Otherwise, how could a young man like Link smash the rebounds? At this time, Link's adoptive parents saw Annie. Facing the sight of Link's adoptive parents, Annie felt a little nervous for a moment. She raised her chest and said, "Hello." Link's adoptive parents looked at each other with a smile and said, "Go and play. Leave the rest to us." Link's adoptive parents entered the principal's office after speaking. "Let's go get a drink," Annie suggested at this time. She felt that standing here was useless, she might as well have a drink. Link nodded, so the two sat down at the cold drink shop outside the school. "I'm sorry, because my question caused you trouble," Annie said to Link. She didn't think that her behavior would bring trouble to Link before, which made her more or less guilty. Link shook his head and said, "It's okay." The two chatted for a long time. During the chat, Annie found that Link had many of the same views as her, which made her very happy. She even felt that Link was her other half. This kind of confidant feeling is really good. Having a pleasant chat with Link made Annie realize that she didn't want to be separated from Link, and she wanted to talk to Link more. But fortunately, she and Link are couples now, so she can use this excuse to find Link. About half an hour later, Link got up and said, "I should go, goodbye Annie." Annie smiled at Link and said, "I'm very happy chatting with you." Link also felt very happy chatting with Annie, so he nodded and said, "Me too." Link's adoptive parents left early because they didn't want to disturb Lin Kefeng's date. Not long after Link left the cold drink shop, he saw the spider silk falling from the sky with a girl in his arms. "Hi, can boy take care of her for me?" SpiderMan said as he put the girl in front of Link. Link nodded. "Good boy." Peter Parker patted Link on the shoulder and left quickly. The 5th floor of the tall building caught fire, and many people were in danger, so he had to hurry up. At this time, Link also noticed the fire on the 5th floor of the high-rise building, so he also understood that Spider-Man was going to save people, but Spider-Man can only save a limited number of people at a time, and some people will probably be injured. Link quietly left. A moment later Link emerged from the shadows on the 5th floor of the tall building. As soon as he came, he felt the scorching temperature, and he also saw Peter Parker who was busy saving people. This is still too slow. Link thought for a while and then used the ability of Shadow Escape to transfer all the people who could see here. At this time, Peter Parker found Link and couldn't help but said, "Good job. Maybe there are still some people under the rubble, you should look for them carefully." Link said, he could only move the objects in his vision away, but he couldn't move the things he couldn't see. "Yeah." Spider-Man nodded and started looking. Link also searched for a while, and after finding no one else, he disappeared from the shadows. Link went home directly. Not long after he got home, he saw the news. It said that someone was slightly injured, but no one died. And it also praised Spider-Man's rescue behavior. Link turned off the TV and returned to his room to play games for a while. He sits down and turns on his computer when he finds Spider-Man knocking on his window. Link opened the window and said, "What are you doing here?" Peter Parker entered Link's room and said, "It was thanks to you just now, otherwise someone would have died." Link looked at Peter Parker and said, "Are you here just to say these things?" To be honest, instead of coming here to say such things, it's better to help the old lady cross the road. Peter Parker said with a smile, "Let me take a rest for a while. Saving people is still very tiring, especially when I meet some strange guys." They think it's only natural for me to save them, and even get angry at me. It's really frustrating. Crowded. Although Spider-Man saved people, he was still lectured by an unreasonable person. The unreasonable person reprimanded him for moving too slowly and caused his skin to be burned. This guy also brazenly asked Spider-Man to pay for the medical bills. Does this guy think he is an idiot? Hearing what Spider-Man said, Link understood that this guy was here to complain. Link looked at the complaining Spider-Man, and said helplessly, "Let's play a game." Spider-Man looked at Link and nodded. So the two played a few games, and Peter Parker said happily when he left, "Although this road is difficult, I will continue." Link said, "Then come on." Because it has been a month, Link activated another ability of his own. So this time his consciousness traveled to another world. He appeared in a palace, and in the depths of the palace there was an ornate stone dwelling with a book on a stone pillar. Link was curious and walked over, and then he found that this book was very familiar to him. It was a book that Xiao Yu had used. Link seemed to remember that Xiao Yu obtained the power of a demon because of imprinting the appearance of a demon on his body, and became a demon queen. Link opened the book curiously. There is a magic on the first page of the book, which is to call out the darkness in your heart, which should be regarded as black magic. Link began to look seriously. Can you learn some powerful magic? Summoning the darkness in one's heart may awaken the shadow core, which is the information Link got from the book. Summoning the darkness in the heart requires blood to draw a magic circle, which can be solved. Who's here? At this time a red-faced demon walked in. Link felt a strong pressure. This is Sombra's boss Terra, a very powerful demon. I didn't expect that I could be discovered just by my consciousness. Terra is really extraordinarily powerful. But at this time Link had already recorded the method of summoning the shadow. Link's consciousness has been separated from this world bit by bit. Now there is still a little time to go to other worlds to have a look. Link felt he could hold on for a while. A few minutes later Link appeared in a wooden attic. A woman with braided purple hair is brandishing a blade. Just as Link appeared, the woman pointed the knife at Link in an instant. Is there anything for people outside the world? The purple-haired woman looked at Link's beautiful eyes, which clearly reflected Link's appearance. Link was surprised. He tilted his head and said, "Can you see me? And are you General Thunder or Shadow?" He knew the woman in front of him. After all, she was the famous Nishiyang Yidao, and he liked her quite a lot before. "I can see it. I am General Thunderbolt. What are you doing here?" General Thunderbolt said. General Raiden is a puppet made by Thunder God Shadow. Not only is it as powerful as the main body, but it can even think. This kind of technology is a bit unimaginable to Link, but since he is a god, he can understand it. Link looked at General Thunder and said, "I want to learn how to fight." General Thunder looked at Link. "Since outsiders want to learn how to fight, let's train a little bit." General Lei Dian is now practicing almost every day, and it is good to have someone to accompany him to practice. Of course, if there is any problem with the outsider in front of her, she will kill him without hesitation. General Thunder looked at Link and said, "Fighting is the best practice." Link agrees with this point of view. Link picked up the wooden knife on the side, and rushed towards General Thunder in an instant. General Thunder did not retreat. She took the wooden knife and swung it at Link. For a moment, Link felt that he was swallowed by a terrifying momentum. Link gritted his teeth and then swung the wooden knife in the same way. Crack! General Thunder's wooden knife cut off Link's wooden knife and knocked Link into the air. General Thunder looked at Link and said, "You don't know how to fight at all." Link touched his chest. Although he was only the embodiment of consciousness, he still felt pain unexpectedly. If one's own consciousness dies, will one's own self die? It seems to be a little more wretched in the future. "Continue," General Thunder said. After that, Link kept getting beaten, but General Thunder would still remind Link a little bit what to do. It is very valuable for Link to be able to get the training of General Thunder. After all, General Thunder and Lightning is a person who has cultivated martial arts to the extreme. Link is practicing seriously. After a long time. It hurts. Link jumped up from the bed. The injury caused by General Thunder, I didn't expect it to be brought to this world. It really hurts. Link turned on the light and looked at his body. He found a lot of bruises on his body. Link touched the wound, feeling a burning pain. After Link sat up and then lay down on the bed again, as long as he didn't move around, it wouldn't hurt that much. Early morning. The wound on Link's body had completely disappeared when he woke up. What an amazing resilience. Link washed his face and ran out of the house. He was going for a morning run. Link jogged while recalling what General Thunder taught him. Because today is Saturday, Link played to his heart's content. As for awakening the power of the shadow, he plans to awaken it tomorrow and buy some blood today. Link jogged for a while, and then he met Molly Lynn and Rick. The two were walking hand in hand. Apparently they were dating, and did they come out of the hotel at this point? Link took a look and then looked away. It doesn't matter what they do. But Rick and Jasmine Kobayashi still found Link, who was jogging. Xiaolin Moli said, "It's really early." Rick didn't speak, but looked at Link with some resentment. "Yeah." Lin Keeman ran away. "You guys know each other." Rick said at this time. He spent a lot of money today to date Jasmine Lin, but he almost ruined the day by Link. Xiaolin Jasmine nodded and said, "He is my neighbor." Rick's expression changed slightly. He didn't want Jasmine Lin to know that he was humiliated by Link. He tentatively asked, "Did he say anything about me?" Xiaolin Jasmine tilted her head and thought for a while before saying, "This guy is very withdrawn, so my relationship with him is very ordinary. He hasn't told me anything about you." Rick breathed a sigh of relief, and then he said, "So where are we going to play?" Jasmine Xiaolin looked at Rick and said, "Which place do you like?" Rick thought for a moment and said, "Beach." Xiaolin Jasmine nodded and said, "Then let's go to the beach." Link, who was jogging, encountered a white youth who was pointing a knife at a black-haired man. The man is Asian, and his face doesn't look like a little Japanese in a stick. Link walked towards the two of them and said, "Sir, you are committing a crime. If we stop now, we can prevent nothing from happening." The white young man looked at Link fiercely, then grinned and said, "I hate you Asians the most, kneel down for me." Stupid. Link didn't say much. He directly took away the young man's knife, and then beat him violently. Link looked at the young man with a bruised nose and a swollen face and said, "It's so annoying, get out." At this time, the Asian man said thanks to Link, and he spoke Chinese. Link reminded Asian men to be more careful because this is not the motherland. Chapter 11. Noon. While Link was sitting at home enjoying a leisurely time, someone knocked on the door and disturbed him. "Who is it?" Link opened the door suspiciously, and found that Peter Parker was looking at him with a smile on his face. Behind Peter Parker were little fat Ned, Annie, and Gwen Stacy. "What are they doing here in a team?" Link said, "What's the matter?" Peter Parker said that they wanted to invite Link to go to the beach together. Link looked at the hot ground outside, then shook his head and said, "You guys go. I still have something to do." In such weather, he prefers to play games at home or recall the fighting methods General Thunder taught him. At this moment, Annie stepped forward and hugged Link's arm affectionately and said, "Just go on a date with me." Seeing Annie acting like a baby, Link was not moved, so she is indeed beautiful, but Link likes a strong and attractive woman. If he wants to say anything, it is probably a woman like General Thunderbolt. Link was still about to refuse, but at this moment Peter Parker said, "Go and play." After that, Ned and Gwen Stacy also joined the ranks of persuading Link. In the end, Link joined the team of several people. When they went there, they took Link's father's car, and of course Link was driving. This made Link very speechless. He thought they were all ready, but he didn't expect that nothing was prepared. Would it really be fun to go like this? With such doubts, Link drove for more than an hour and came to the beach. The girls are overjoyed as soon as they come here. Link didn't have much fluctuation in his heart, he still felt a little bored. It's almost like Boke opened the door for Boke and Boke got home. As soon as Link stopped the car, the girls couldn't wait to get out of the car. "Come on," Ned said to Peter Parker as the girls got out of the car. Peter Parker rubbed his head and laughed. He wasn't ready to confess to Gwen Stacy. Link doesn't say anything, he can only hope that Peter Parker can be with Gwen Stacy. After the three of Link got out of the car, the girls couldn't wait to change their clothes. Link came here in short sleeves, so he didn't need to change clothes. While the girls went to change, Link walked around. Because Link doesn't like crowded places very much, he unknowingly stays away from the crowd. After walking for a few more minutes, he heard cries for help. Link walked over, and then he saw a group of youths dragging Jasmine Lin, and they kept swearing, and there was a pale Rick beside him. Seeing this scene, Link knew what happened. Is Jasmine Shaolin too unlucky, or does this guy give people a very aggressive feeling? Link stepped forward and grabbed a young man's hand, then kicked him away. There are 3 young people in total. After being kicked by Link, the other 2 immediately attacked Link, but their speed was too slow for Link. Link grabbed one of the hands, and then slapped him unconscious, and the other was also punched by Link. After dealing with these people, Link looked at Jasmine Lin, whose face was pale with fright, probably really frightened. Shaolin Molly started to cry. This was the first time she encountered such a thing. She was a little scared. She looked at Link and moved her lips and said, "Thank you." Link nodded and said, "No, but you were really unlucky. I think you should be more careful in the future. After all, I will not appear in front of you every time." Jasmine Shaolin nodded, and then she walked up to Rick and said, "Sorry. I won't continue today, and I will refund the money to you." Rick was a little afraid to look at Jasmine Lin, because he was frightened just now, and he didn't have the courage to resist at all. He felt that he was sorry for Jasmine Lin. He felt shame, and the shame pierced him through. Link probably felt that he was also a useless person. Link dared to make a move just now. Is it because of this that Annie dated him? Rick nodded. Seeing Rick nodding, Jasmine Shaolin walked up to Link and said, "Let's go home." Link looked at Shaolin Jasmine suspiciously. He just came here. But at this time, Shaolin Jasmine's face was very pale, and she was also a little scared, probably really scared. It's hard to ignore a delicate girl looking at people with a terrified expression, even for Link. He thinks that Jasmine Lin is quite cute at this moment. But Link still didn't want to go back like this. At this time, Jasmine Shaolin walked up to Link and said, "Then it's okay to protect me." Protect Shaolin Jasmine. Although she would indeed make a move when she was in danger, it always felt weird. "I will pay you," Shaolin Molly said. Link's eyes lit up, and he said, "Then I will protect you." Afterwards, Link took Jasmine Shaolin to meet Peter Parker and the others. "Where did you go, Link? And who is she? Is it your sister? She looks so cute," Annie said as she looked at Molly Lin, who was a little shorter than herself. Shaolin Molly pursed her lips and said, "Who are you?" Annie hugged Link's arm affectionately and said, "I'm his girlfriend. Are you still going to use yourself as a shield?" Jasmine Shaolin looked at Link and Annie and said, "It's a good match." Shaolin Molly rubbed her head and said, "I want to go to the car to rest for a while." Link nodded and took Jasmine Lin to the car. Link then left. Jasmine Shaolin leaned on the car window and looked at Link and couldn't help but said, "What a disgusting person." Jasmine Shaolin felt a little uncomfortable watching Annie and Link's intimate interaction. She looks away. With black skin and big breasts, such a woman is very lustful at first glance, and she may not be a virgin for a long time. Do you only look for good-looking girlfriends? What a superficial man. How come he doesn't know that an interesting soul is the best? Shaolin Jasmine thought she was already very beautiful, but she was still a little bit worse than Annie. Shaolin Jasmine closed her eyes. It wasn't long before she fell asleep. Dreamland. Nah, Link, how about I grow up to be your wife? The mushroom-headed little Lin Jasmine said after chasing little Link. Little Link turned his head and said calmly, "No. Little Japan will go." Jasmine Shaolin felt the indifference in Link's eyes, which made her very sad. "Link, I hate you," Jasmine Shaolin muttered to herself. After purchasing some blood, Link began to draw the magic circle in his room. Of course, the paint used was blood. It took Link a few minutes to successfully draw the magic circle. Link still remembered what to do. He walked to the magic circle and sat down. Next, you need to use your own blood to activate the magic circle. Link will cut his finger a little with the dagger, and scarlet blood will soon flow from the wound. Link dripped blood into the magic circle. The red light continued, and Link felt something strange in his body. The magic circle suddenly lit up. At this time, Link was very glad that he had drawn the curtains in advance, otherwise such a scene would be easily seen by others, and unnecessary troubles might arise. Suddenly the magic circle turned into a red rope, binding Link and then merging into Link's body little by little. This process lasted about 1 minute. The magic circle disappeared, but Link felt as if he had an extra instinct. He closed his eyes for a moment, and opened them the next second. Summon the darkness within. Link's shadow began to squirm, and soon a shadow split from Link's shadow. And soon a tall figure appeared, but behind the tall figure were several black and sharp spears, which looked like spiders at first glance. Does the awakened shadow core have spider characteristics? Link tilted his head and said, "Take off your mask." The figure in front of Link took off the mask obediently, and a very beautiful face appeared. What should I say? This face is like an angel. It is so beautiful that people can't take their eyes off it. It is even more beautiful than Annie. Link's heart moved, but soon he understood something. This face was his inner expectation, and it should be regarded as representing his lust. Link rubbed his head. After seeing this face, he felt that it would be difficult for him to like other people. Is this a cocoon? But it's really beautiful. Because of the characteristics of spiders, Link named his shadow army Spider Shadows. Link tried to call out the darkness in his heart, but he couldn't summon other spider shadows. Link understood that this was because his black shadows were not strong enough. Link thought for a while and then brought the spider shadow to the forest in the back mountain. Link said, "Let's compare who is better than us. You don't have to hold back." The spider shadow nodded and then appeared in front of Link in an instant. The spider shadow has the ability to escape in an instant, so it is very fast to rush from the shadow to Link. Nice speed, but still a little slower. The spear-like spider legs behind the spider shadow stab at Link. The speed of the spider shadow has already surpassed the level of inhumanity, but Link still avoided them all. And Link also sees the neutral position of the spider shadow's attack and sent the spider shadow flying. The spider shadow lay on the ground in a state of embarrassment, and she tried to stand up. But Link had already appeared behind her. Link's fist dropped. Spider shadow's spider sensor sensed danger, so it hurriedly rolled on the ground. Boom! A big hole was smashed into the ground by Link. Oh, not only the shadow escaped, but also the spider sense. It's really powerful, Link said while sighing. The spider shadow chance inherited his ability, but the power is much weaker. This probably it was because of the insufficient power of the shadow. After all, spider shadow is still very powerful. Suddenly Link asked, "Can you shoot spider silk?" The spider shadow stood up and nodded, and then black spider silk came out from its wrist. Link, why can you shoot spider silk, but I can't? It's not fair at all. It's prettiest. Link couldn't help but said, he can't even shoot spider silk. The spider silk he uses now is a device made by Peter Parker. Unknown, spider shadow tilted his head and looked at Link. Wow, Link punched a tree angrily. Link immediately withdrew his fist and said, "Go home." Spider shadow nodded and entered Link's shadow. Her home was Link's shadow. On Monday, Link swaggered to school with his hands in his trouser bags. Link started to sleep when he came to school. He felt that he didn't need to study at all, because the spider shadow would help him to complete everything. Although he didn't get along with the spider shadow for a long time, but the spider shadow showed an unprecedented IQ. In just one night, she completed the study of knowledge from kindergarten to high school. Tisk tisk is really scary. For a moment, Link didn't know whether to be envious, jealous, or happy. As the owner of Spider Shadow, he should be happy for Spider Shadow's talent, but as a person, he envies Spider Shadow's talent very much. Of course he also has some jealousy. But most of all, he was happy, because such a perfect existence was actually his subordinate, and he felt a sense of accomplishment just thinking about it. Although Link planned to sleep all morning, he was woken up by the teacher. At this time, he was no longer sleepy, so Link did not intend to continue to sleep. At this time, Link found that the spider shadow was hiding in the shadow and studying seriously. Is this guy still a study freak? You are so powerful and you have to work so hard, don't you want people to live? Link wanted to show off, but seeing Spider Shadow's serious look, he couldn't help but listen to a class. Afternoon. In order for Spider Shadow to study better, Link went directly to the library. As soon as the Spider Shadow came, he began to study seriously. Link pouted, and then began to study. The Spider Shadow appeared from an unoccupied corner. This time she put away the spider legs and the mask, and began to read a book openly. However, her beautiful face has attracted a lot of attention. Link looked at the Spider Shadow and couldn't help but think of the word beauty. Spider Shadow even just pulled his hair, and immediately someone started to swallow their saliva. These people seemed to be worse than Link thought. He thought they could all remain normal, but he didn't expect to feel like taking aphrodisiacs when they saw the spider shadows one by one. Although the spider shadow is indeed extremely beautiful, it doesn't have to be like this, right? At this moment, Spider Shadow's moist lips moved. Immediately, a teenager held his nose and raised his head. No way. Is the destructive power of the Spider Shadow so terrifying? It's pretty interesting though. After a long time, many people gathered outside the library, and they all just wanted to see the beauty of Spider Shadow. Link felt a little bored. He got up and left the library. Then he met Anne. Annie said solemnly, "You are my boyfriend now." Is she afraid that she will be confused by the Spider Shadow? Link couldn't help but smiled and said, "I know. It's so beautiful." Annie looked at the Spider Shadow who was reading a book and said, she had never seen such a beautiful girl, she was as beautiful as an angel. Annie looked around and found that most people were looking at the Spider Shadow, and the idea of beauty and trouble flashed in Annie's mind. Annie looked at Link and said, "How do you feel about her?" Link knew that Annie was referring to the Spider Shadow, and the Spider Shadow was undoubtedly extremely beautiful, so beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes off it. Link said, "She is extremely beautiful." Annie jokingly said at this time, "How about you go after her? You look pretty good. If you go, then you should be successful." Link shook his head and said, "I'm not interested. By the way, I have something else to do. See you tomorrow." Link waved and left. Annie also waved goodbye to Link. Annie looked at the Spider Shadow, then turned and left. Spider Shadow sensed that Link was leaving, so she also got up and chased after Link. She didn't walk fast because Link didn't walk fast either. She didn't have the idea of going with Link. It wasn't that she didn't like it but that Link didn't like the feeling of being stared at by people very much, and Link preferred to keep a low profile. At this time, she went home with Link, which must have caused an uproar. She kept a certain distance from Link. Suddenly gunshots rang out in the street. Link frowned and didn't speak. He saw a group of men rushing out of the bank, and one of them pointed a gun at Link's head and said, "You come with us." Are these people going to take him hostage? Link raised his hand, and was roughly dragged away by the man. At this time, Link had no intention of making a move, because once he showed his extraordinary strength, it would inevitably cause unnecessary trouble. Wait a while. The robbers then took Link away. After a long time, Link was taken to an abandoned factory, and the robbers started counting money excitedly, seeming to have forgotten Link's existence. At the same time, Hawkeye and Black Widow were ordered to recover the stolen money. Hawkeye and Black Widow quickly headed in the direction the robbers had left. It only took Hawkeye and Black Widow a few minutes to find the robbers' hiding place. They are looking for Link, and they want to ensure Link's safety. Boom! A loud voice came, and the figure of a robber slammed heavily on the wall, and the huge force made him unconscious in an instant. Hearing the movement, Black Widow and Hawkeye quietly hid. Link moved his wrist and said, "Come together." The robbers left and pulled the trigger in an attempt to kill Link, but Link, who had a spider sense, easily avoided all the bullets. Link ran. A robber raised the butt of his gun and threw it at Link. Link reached out and grabbed the butt of the gun and pulled hard. Crack! The butt of the gun was crushed. The robber's eyes widened, and the next second Link punched him flying. The next robber was also easily dealt with by Link. At this moment, Link's eyes fell on the bag containing the money. Link reaches out for the money. Whoosh! Link sensed danger, and he flashed deftly. Crack! An arrow was nailed to Link's position just now. Does anyone still use a bow and arrow? Just when Link wondered, it was the red gas emitted by the arrow. Is it poisonous? Link held his breath. Suddenly someone came from behind. Link ducked sideways, then saw a red-haired woman stabbing him with a dagger. Link frowned and punched the woman. The woman raised her hands to block. But Link's huge strength made her a little overwhelmed. The woman was knocked into the air by Link's enormous strength, and she also felt that her arm seemed to be broken. Boom! The woman slammed into the wall heavily. The woman just stabilized her body, and then saw Link appearing in front of her, and Link swung his fist. She hurried down to hide. Boom! Link's fist actually smashed a big hole in the wall. It's definitely not good to be hit by such a fist. Whoosh! The arrow shot towards Link's head. Link tilted his head and avoided the arrow. Black Widow kicked Brother Link vigorously with her feet. Boring. Link lifted his foot and was much faster than Black Widow. So the Black Widow was kicked away by Link before he could kick him. Link's blow made Black Widow a little confused. At this time, Hawkeye was about to continue attacking, but the next second, the spider shadow appeared from the shadows. The sudden attack was hard to guard against, so Hawkeye was controlled by Spider Shadow with Spider Silk. Then Spider Shadow threw Hawkeye in front of Link. The Black Widow was still preparing to fight back, but the next second, the spider legs like Spider Shadow spears were aimed at the Black Widow's neck, and as long as she moved around, she would stab into the Black Widow's neck without hesitation. The situation is under control. Link looked at Hawkeye and Black Widow and said, "You guys are so weak." Neither Black Widow nor Hawkeye spoke. Link tilted his head and continued, "I don't want to be your enemy. The reason why I attacked you just now is because you made the first move, so don't trouble me in the future, or I will be very angry. I might do anything when I'm angry, so remember not to bother me." Quote. Link got up and left after speaking. His identity must have been found out, but he was not afraid. As long as they dared to do something, he would dare to go to the White House to beat up the president. Black Widow got up and looked at Hawkeye and said, "What should I do?" Hawkeye patted the dust off his body and said, "Report truthfully, what to do is their business." Hawkeye is throwing the blame on Link to his boss. Black Widow nodded and said, "That's fine. What an unlucky day," Link said as he walked down the street. "Hi." Just when Link complained that Annie suddenly appeared and hugged his arm, Annie's plump breasts pressed hard on Link's arm, which made Link a little at a loss, but soon he just stabilized your mind. He said, "What a coincidence. It's too close." At this time, Annie stuck to Link's ear and said, "Someone is harassing me." At this moment, Link noticed that someone was indeed observing Annie not far away. Link said, "What am I going to do? Go up and talk about this and beat them away." Annie shook her head and said, "You don't need to fight, just stay with me for a while. By the way, is there anything urgent for you?" Link shook his head and said, "No, what's the matter with you?" Annie was a little happy to hear Link's words, because Link had nothing to do, so he could go shopping with her, how to spend a pleasant time. How about going to a lingerie store? I don't know if Link will be shy. I'm going shopping, Annie said, and looked at Link expectantly. Link didn't speak. Annie shook Link's arm and said, "Shopping with me." Link didn't leave to answer, because now he wanted to go home even more. "Are you okay?" Annie said in a coquettish tone, and looked at Link with a foul expression. Anne was already very good looking, but now it was even more difficult to refuse. Link said helplessly, "All right then." So Link started shopping mode with Annie. The two passed by a bookstore and found that Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy were talking and laughing together. Are these two dating? This should only be explained by communication. Link greets Peter Parker. Peter Parker showed a hearty smile and a smug expression on his face. This guy is definitely in love. But Gwen Stacy was a little unnatural, as if he didn't want him to find out about this scene. Was Gwen Stacy embarrassed to shoot? Still shy. Because of Gwen Stacy's reluctance, Link and Annie quickly left. When leaving, Anne also said that Gwen Stacy didn't seem to want to see her and Link very much. Link nodded and said, "I don't know why." Link walked around with Annie for almost 2 hours before returning home. As soon as he got home, he saw a black, bald, one-eyed man sitting on the sofa in his house. "Link, I can't spot you without turning on the lights." Link tilted his head and said, "I can kill you for trespassing." Because it's Nick Fury, Link speaks unrestrainedly, and looks full of gunpowder. Nick Fury said, "You are not the only special existence. I know that. After all, there is a Spider-Man running around, so what does this have to do with you breaking into my house?" Link said, looking at the man in front of him. Nick Fury thought for a while and said, "Pay attention to your tone. I am a member of the government, and as long as I need it, you may even be dead." He. Link laughed, and then said, "Then you have a try." Nick Fury's eyes changed, and before he could speak, Link rushed in front of him. Boom! Nick Fury was pinched by Link's neck and pressed against the wall. Link chuckled and said, "I can easily kill you." Nick Fury felt the danger. The boy in front of him was not an excellent student like the evaluation in the school. This guy was an extremely dangerous person. But Nick Fury also understands that the boy in front of him is very smart. In other words, as long as he doesn't step on the boy's ground, he will be fine. Nick Fury said, "You should understand that if you kill me, you will be in trouble, so let's talk calmly." Link nodded and said, "Then what are you talking about? Would you like to join us? As a member of us, you can get a lot of special care." Nick Fury said. Link shook his head and said, "I like a peaceful life, so just don't bother me." Nick Fury continued, "You have power, you can save many people, but you don't act. Do you think it has nothing to do with yourself? Obviously you have the power to save them." Hearing what Nick Fury said, Link couldn't help laughing out loud. He said, Country can obviously save many ordinary people, but isn't it just standing by and doing nothing? And it's still starting a war. Isn't it you who are the disaster in Afghanistan? Did it come out? You are still hurting other people, but now you want me to help you. Do you think you are worthy?" Link's words were sharp and realistic. Nick Fury felt that he couldn't move Link anymore. He stood up and said, "If that's the case, then let's do it." Nick Fury is gone. Link started to check the room. He suspected that these guys might have installed bugs and cameras in his house. After searching for an hour, Link found 3 bugs and 2 cameras. "It's so boring. He dismantled everything we installed." Black Widow looked at Nick Fury and said. Nick Fury thought for a moment and said, "Leave him alone for now." Black Widow nodded and said, "He is very popular with girls." Nick Fury looked at Black Widow and didn't speak. But Black Widow said, "He is more handsome than the Prince Charming the first imagined when I was a child." Nick Fury's face darkened even more. "Link, are you and Annie really dating?" Peter Parker looked at Link and said in the early morning. Link looked at it and before he spoke, Peter Parker said, "Is Annie using you as a shield?" Quote. Link didn't speak. Peter Parker smiled and said, "Say, I won't tell anyone else." Link looked at Peter Parker and said, "Aren't you too busy? If you have more thoughts, you might as well help the old lady cross the road." Peter Parker touched his head and said, "I am also a human being, at least I should have a rest time." "That's right. This is for you." Peter Parker handed Link a spider silk launching device. Link took it over and said, "It looks amazing." Link looked at the high-tech spider silk launcher in his hand and said, "It's really good. I like it very much." Peter Parker smiled and said, "It's not bad." Link put away the spider silk launcher and said, "Class is about to begin." Because of the new toy, Link felt as if his heart was being scratched by something. He seemed to try the spider silk launcher. Afternoon. Just after class, Link ran out of the classroom, spider web launcher. Link jumped out directly from the back door of the school, but Peter Parker appeared in front of him before he landed. Peter Parker said, "It's not good for you to be discovered like this, so do you want to try Spider-Man's daily life?" Link looked at Peter Parker and said, "Are you going on a date?" Peter Parker remembered the appointment with Gwen Stacy, then nodded and said, "Yeah." Link laughed and said, "Brother is not bad." Link patted Peter Parker on the shoulder and said, "Then I'll try to be Spider-Man for a day." Peter Parker nodded. Random Peter Parker handed Link his tights and said, "Do you need it?" Link nodded and said, "Yes. But I'm taller than you, so can I wear it?" Peter Parker said, "It can be worn." After hearing what Peter Parker said, Link took the Peter Parker tights and left. When he came to a small alley, he began to change clothes. Link, who quickly changed his clothes, jumped out of the alley. "Oh hoo!" Link swings between tall buildings. "Help!" Suddenly someone screamed. Link looked down and saw a white youth planning to rob a black girl. Link rushed over without hesitation. The white youth looked at the black girl and said, "Nigger, give me the money." The black girl seemed terrified and could only scream. "Ah!" The white youth swung the knife angrily. "Wow, it's so dangerous." Link snatched the knife from the white youth, and then kicked him away. "Of course, don't use too much force, otherwise this guy may die." The white youth stood up and wanted to run, but how could Link let him go? Link entangled the young man with spider webs, then he looked at the black girl beside him and said, "Maybe you should call the police." The black girl nodded and said, "Thank you Spider-Man, I think I should repay you." Link tilted his head and said, "Then if you meet someone who needs help, if you have the energy, then help him." "Goodbye." Girl, quote. Link raised his hand to shoot out the spider silk and then disappeared quickly. In a moment, Link spots a runaway sports car. Link jumped directly in front of the sports car, and then stopped it with his hand. Link found a beautiful girl in the sports car. Rich people. Suddenly Link sensed danger. Diddy-dee. The whistle sounded. Link held the sports car and jumped to a safe place. Link put the sports car down and left quickly. If Spider-Man keeps helping people like this, then this guy is still very tired. At this time, the girl driving the sports car got out of the car and said, "Superhero." Night. When Peter Parker came home, he found his battle suit lying on the table, and it was still tattered. "Hi," Link said at this moment. Peter Parker couldn't help but said, "You came in through the window." Link nodded, and then began to put on his own clothes. Since the Spider Shadow was born in the world, he has never stopped studying. Link doesn't understand why the Spider Shadow likes to study so much. Because the Spider Shadow had to learn, it was not easy for him to tell the Spider Shadow to do anything. Saturday. Link was walking on the street in a black sweater, and there were quite a lot of people on the street. The weather was pretty good. Link walked for a few minutes and passed a tall building when something happened. A bomb exploded among the crowd. Link's spider sensor was crazily reminding him of danger. Link hurriedly got down. In the next second, a huge shock wave lifted him into the air. The bomb was very powerful. This was no ordinary bomb at all, it was a modified bomb. Link's cheek was also scratched by debris. Although he avoided most of the danger by relying on the spider sensor, he was still scratched. What's going on here? Link rotated his body and landed smoothly. I saw dozens of people crying on the ground, bloody and bloody. Link sees a severed arm fall beside him. Is this a terrorist attack? Link felt angry like never before, not only because of the death of innocent people but also because of his own bruises from bombs. Boy, your eyes are so disgusting. A masked man with a backpack and a pistol said to Link. Link's eyes made him feel very uncomfortable. The man pointed a gun at Link and said, "Bye." Boom. The man pulled the trigger. The bullet flew out in an instant. The bullet was aimed at Link's head. Link tilted his head and avoided the bullet. Link also rushed out. The man continued to shoot unhurriedly, but the bullets did not hit Link, and all the bullets were avoided. In a moment Link rushed to the man. The man wanted to continue shooting, but Link crushed the man's gun as soon as he grabbed it hard. The man couldn't keep firing. And he also realizes that Link is a very dangerous guy. In the next second, there was a severe pain in his abdomen, and before the severe pain passed, he was thrown out with great force. Boom. The man's body hit the bus, and the bus was easily hit with a dent. The man wanted to move but couldn't. He felt that his bones were broken a lot, and he even felt that the bones pierced his internal organs. Link walked towards the man sullenly. He grabbed a motorcycle, and Link was about to smash the motorcycle on the man. When Link walked in front of the man looked at Link calmly. He wanted to speak, but he didn't have the strength to say anything. He could only watch Link helplessly lift up the motorcycle and throw it at him. Are you going to die? Obviously life is getting better. Touch. A huge roar came. The motorcycle did not fall because a man in battle armor blocked the blow. Iron Man looked at the young man with a very scary expression in front of him and said, "Leave it to me. Killing people is not something you should do. He killed a lot of people. He's beast." Link's voice was hoarse. It was the first time Link saw so many people become bloody in front of him. "Well, kill him, and the police are coming," Iron Man said. Link came back to his senses, put down the motorcycle and left silently. Iron Man looked at Link leaving and didn't know what he was thinking. Soon the police and medical staff came, and Tony Stark began to arrange rescue, and also blocked some troublesome things for Link. Link sat on the edge of the tall building and looked down. His mind was full of people who had become bloody in front of him not long ago. Limbs, blood, scattered everywhere. This made him a little unacceptable, and several living people turned into a pile of rotten meat in front of him. It's too much. In other words, this was the first time he had seen such a tragic scene. Bang! The sound of steel clashing. Link looked back and saw that it was Tony Stark. Tony Stark in armor looked at Link and said, "Hi. Link, are you okay?" When Link heard Tony Stark's name, He knew that Tony Stark had investigated him. It was really hard to hide it. But Link wasn't scared, because he didn't do anything bad. You'll get used to it in the future, Tony Stark said, patting Link on the shoulder. Link buried his face in his arms and said, "Are you here to comfort me?" Tony Stark thought for a while and said, "That's right." Tony Stark thought of Peter Parker and said, "Do you have the same abilities?" Link knew that Tony Stark was talking about Peter Parker, but he didn't expect that he also knew the identity of Peter Parker so fast enough. However, there is still some gap between him and Peter Parker in ability. Link thought for a while and said, "Our basic abilities are similar, but there are some differences. For example, I can shuttle in the shadows, but he can't. By the way, he is solving alien technology recently. Are you bored? If so, help him." With the help of Tony Stark, Spider-Man will be able to solve the alien technology problem soon. Tony Stark looked at Link. In fact, Spider-Man had already looked for him before, and he also knew that Spider-Man was Peter Parker, because he paid attention to Spider-Man and discovered Link's special feature by the way. Tony Stark said at this time, "This matter is about to be resolved. By the way, how does the spider silk launcher work?" Did you do it?" Link said in surprise. He thought it was Peter Parker who did it, but Iron Man did it. "No wonder, it's pretty easy to use." Iron Man nodded, and then said, "Do you want a battle suit? It can be bulletproof and has a gliding device. Of course, I don't ask you to go around saving people. After all, you only need to learn at your age." Quote. Link looked back at Iron Man and couldn't help but said, "Are you rich?" Iron Man nodded and said, "There are too many to use up." Link pouted, "Evil capitalism." "No," Tony Stark said. "Why not?" Link said, "He could get good things without paying anything. How could he let go of such a good thing?" Tony Stark smiled and said, "Boy, you should go home and try on your new clothes now." Link looked at Tony Stark and got up and jumped off the tall building. Looking at Link, who jumped down, Tony Stark couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. Are all the kids these days so powerful? Tony Stark watched as Link swayed away. Link emerged from the shadowed area of his room. He saw a set of black spider suits placed in the room. "It looks pretty handsome." Link thought for a while and put on the black spider suit. "Welcome to the Sombra suit. Wow, is it equipped with artificial intelligence? This feels interesting." No matter what Link looks at, the source material manufacturer and other materials of the thing will pop up quickly. It's really fun. How about going out for a stroll? Bang bang. Someone knocked on the window at this time. Link knew it was Peter Parker without guessing. He looked at the window and found that Peter Parker was knocking on the window outside. Link opened the window and said, "Is there something wrong?" Peter Parker looked at Link and said, "Let's climb the Empire State Building." Link looked at Peter Parker and nodded, "Let's go." So Link and Peter Parker headed towards the Empire State Building together, swinging the spider silk. "Link, your battle suit is very handsome," Peter Parker said. Link looked at Spider-Man and said, "You're as handsome too." Spider-Man smiled and said, "I think so too." Peter Parker and Link walked forward while chatting. The two moved very fast. "Someone robbed me to see." Peter Parker found two men robbed a woman. So he fell from the sky decisively. Peter Parker easily solved the two robbers and returned the stolen things to the woman. The woman was very grateful. Peter Parker shyly said nothing. Link held the spider silk upside down and moved down a little bit. Link said, "Good performance." Peter Parker smiled. "There are two Spider-Mans." The woman couldn't help but ask. Link looked at the woman and said, "Who knows? Can I take a photo with you?" The woman asked. Link looked at Peter Parker and said, "I have no problem." The three then took a photo. The woman left contentedly. Link and Peter Parker also continued on to the Empire State Building. Night. Link and Peter Parker on the Empire State Building chat about everyday things like Gwen Stacy being glamorous. Anne's charisma is unrivaled and all that. "Peter, why don't you resist? Thompson obviously hates it." Link said. He didn't understand why Peter Parker didn't resist. As long as he exerted a little force, he could completely torture Thompson. Peter Parker looked at Link and said, "I was weak before, isn't it strange that I suddenly became strong?" Link nodded and said, "It's a bit strange, but if Thompson bullies you in the future, I'll take his girlfriend away." Peter Parker looked at Link and said, "You don't have any strange ideas, do you?" "Hey." Link smiled and jumped off the Empire State Building. Peter Parker also jumped down. On Monday, Gwen Stacy was talking to the girls, and Gwen Stacy was telling the other girls that Spider-Man had too. Hearing this, Link and Peter Parker looked at each other. "My mother said it, and she took a photo with 2 Spider-Men," Gwen Stacy said while showing the group photo on her phone to others. Some people choose to believe it, while others don't. After all, group photos are easy to fake now. At this moment, Link looked at Peter Parker and said, "What a coincidence, my boy." Tuesday, the school organized a trip to the museum. Link and his class naturally wanted to go, although Link didn't really want to go, and even wanted to ask for leave, but he was dragged away by Peter Parker, so Link had no choice but to follow. Early in the morning he was woken up by Peter Parker. Link went to school with Peter Parker after washing up. "Hi." The girls today were extremely excited, and many girls greeted Link. Of course Link responded. At about 8 o'clock, the teacher organized the students to get on the bus. "Hi." Gwen Stacy was sitting with Peter Parker, but she turned her head to greet Link. "Hi." Link also greeted. They must have a good relationship to sit together. "I don't know when it will be made public, so I'm probably going to be surprised." Gwen Stacy was beautiful after all. "Don't you think they have a good relationship?" Ned beside Link said at this time. Ned has also recently felt that the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy is escalating. Link nodded and said, "Indeed. Will you be free soon?" Link. Suddenly a blonde girl bit her lip and looked at Link and said, "Huh." Link didn't expect that someone would greet him, so he was a little surprised, but he quickly looked at the girl and said, "What's the matter when you're free?" The blonde girl immediately said happily, "Then join our group later." This visit is divided into groups, and each group must write some thoughts. Then Peter Parker spoke. "We are in a team, so he can't team up with you." Peter Parker knows that Link is a person who doesn't want to write anything at all. If he joins other groups, he might be hated by people. After all, Link may not be able to do anything, which is very annoying. The blonde girl glared at Peter Parker as if to say, "What are you talking about?" Peter Parker laughed. The blonde girl left. "So we are a team." At this time, a girl with slightly dark skin said. Ned looked back and said, "The 6 of us are a couple." Quote. Link tilted his head and looked at Gwen Stacy, then back at the 2 girls. Mary Jane and Michelle Jones, will all 3 be Peter Parker's girlfriends? Tisk. It's too much. But it's also strange. Why are there 3 MJs? But forget it, it has nothing to do with me anyway. Suddenly Link's hair stood up, and he sensed danger. Link immediately looked up, and at the same time Peter Parker looked at him. The 2 looked at each other and then looked outside together. Link sees a car about to fall off the bridge. Link asked Spider Shadow to help. Peter Parker was short of breath at this time. He wanted to hide his identity, but he wanted to save people more. He stood up abruptly. "Ah, it's Spider-Man." At this moment, Mary Jane looked at the Spider Shadow who was saving people not far away. "Huh." Peter Parker looked over, and he found a graceful woman in a black spider suit pulling up a car that fell off the bridge. "Are there other Spider-Man?" Peter Parker's mood became complicated, and then he looked at Link, and found that Link also looked pensive. After a while Peter Parker sat down, because the person had been rescued. Seeing Peter Parker sitting down, Link also looked away. "So you won't doubt him now, right?" After all, he was also very confused. After driving for half an hour, they arrived at the museum. The teacher asked them to visit in groups. "So there's a female Spider-Man. It looks really good," Michelle Jones said. "The female Spider-Man just now looked very powerful, at least many boys were fascinated by it. She has such a good figure. I thought I saw a Victoria's Secret angel," Ned said. The female Spider-Man just now was really surprising. While the few people were talking, Link went to the bathroom, and Mary Jane was with him. The red-haired girl kept frowning. Link didn't ask much, it should feel like a very troublesome matter. Link came to the bathroom, and Link randomly entered a stall. As soon as Link opened his pants, Spider Shadow got out. "Link." Spider Shadow looked at Link and then tilted her head. Strictly speaking, she can only be regarded as a child now, so she has no shame. Link said, "Can you leave first?" Spider Shadow tilted her head, although she didn't know why Link asked her to leave, but she left obediently. I was seen. Link's mood is a bit complicated. It seems that he will let Jiang know about this society in the future. Link saw Mary Jane when he was leaving the toilet. Link knew she was waiting for him, so he stepped forward and said, "Actually, you can go first." Mary Jane froze for a moment with an unnatural expression, but soon smiled and said, "It's nothing." "Mary Jane, let's go," Michelle Jones said at this moment. Link. Mary Jane wasn't waiting for him at all. But why did Mary Jane have to wait for him? Faceless. What's wrong with Link? You have a strange expression, Michelle Jones said. Link looked away and said sadly, "I want to find a place where no one is around to commit suicide." Mary Jane couldn't help laughing. Link left quickly. Seeing Michelle Jones leave, she tilted her head and said, "He's quite cute." Mary Jane looked at Michelle Jones in surprise. "Come on," said Michelle Jones. When Link returned, Peter Parker was chatting with Gwen Stacy, and Ned looked as if he was wandering. Seeing Link came back to his senses, he said, "I'm going to the bathroom." Looks like Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy have dealt Ned the coup de grace. Hi. At this moment Michelle Jones and Mary Jane returned. The two girls quickly pushed Peter Parker away from Gwen Stacy. Peter Parker silently came to Link and said, "I don't understand what the girls are talking about." Link nodded, but his mind was thinking about Spider Shadow, and he didn't know if Spider Shadow would find it strange. Spider Shadow. It never occurred to her that she would go straight into the toilet, so that she would see her shameful side. "I want to die." The three girls didn't know what to say, and their eyes were still on Link, and then they laughed. Link's eyelids sank. Could it be Mary Jane who was talking about what happened just now? Link walked around the museum rascally. Of course he walked with Peter Parker and the others. At this time, Thompson not far away looked at Peter Parker and threw the bottle in his hand. Thompson was about to hit Peter Parker but instead hit Mary Jane because of a problem with his aim. Link instinctively reached out to catch the bottle. Mary Jane's eyes were closed, but she opened them because there was no pain, and then watched Link catch the bottle. Although I know that Link is handsome, but now it seems that he is too handsome. Link casually tossed the bottle into the trash can and acted like nothing happened. Mary Jane thanked Link. "Link is really handsome," the girl beside Thompson couldn't help saying. Thompson curled his lips in disdain and said, "It looks like a skinny one punched me." Thompson doesn't like Link very much. After all, no one will pay attention to him where Link is. Isn't it just a little boy? What's the air? At this time, the girl continued, "This is called a handsome man, and he is a very perfect handsome man." Thompson pouted, then got up and walked towards Link. "What are you going to do?" The girl pulled Thompson and said, she felt that the boy in front of her was looking for trouble for Link. "Talk to Link." Thompson pulled the girl's hand away and strode up to Link and said, "Hello. Beautiful boy. You are so good looking. No matter who you are, you must like it, right?" Thompson's eccentric words made the atmosphere heavy. Link looked at Thompson, tilted his head and said, "What's none of your business?" Link looked at Thompson expressionlessly, which made Thompson a little apprehensive, but he still felt that Link was pretending. Naturally, he couldn't admit cowardice in front of his classmates, so he stretched out his hand to pat Link on the shoulder, making Link lose face. But Link opened his hand with a slap. Link said seriously, "I don't like people touching me." "You boy." Thompson stepped forward, and then looked at Link with a fixed gaze. This guy is quite tempered. The tense atmosphere began to permeate, and Peter Parker was a little worried that Link would slap Thompson away. Peter Parker believed Link would do something like this. "What are you doing? Are you exchanging feelings?" the teacher said at this time. Thompson turned to leave, but in his heart, he was crazily thinking about how to bully Link. Because of Thompson's matter, the atmosphere became tense. But at this time Ned said some witty words, and Ned's words eased the atmosphere a lot. Noon. Link and the others had dinner in a restaurant. Peter Parker chatted with three girls, but Ned was more active and could easily amuse the girls. Link didn't talk much. He was eating silently while thinking about how to make his shadow army stronger. It seems that it is necessary to go to Terra's palace to read the magic book next. Although Link is very quiet, the girls still look at Link from time to time, and the girls are very curious about what Link is thinking. Looking at the quiet Link, Mary Jane remembered the embarrassing scene of Link not long ago. At that time, she was waiting for Michelle Jones. Unexpectedly, Link mistakenly thought she was waiting for him, which was really embarrassing. A corner of the museum. Sorry. Ned hurriedly apologized to the man in front of him. The man looked at Ned expressionlessly, and his deep pupils were as terrifying as a dark abyss. Ned felt a trace of fear. My friend is waiting for me. Ned hurriedly left after finishing speaking. The man in front of him made him feel terrified, as if he was facing a wild beast. Ned took a few steps and then looked back apprehensively to see the man still looking at him. Ned withdrew his gaze and walked quickly forward. What's wrong with this man? It looks so scary. Ned is panicking now. The man looked at Ned silently. He felt that he had lost a lot of memory, which made him very upset, and he became violent. Who are you? Winter soldier, or a soldier who defends the country? The fragments of memory made the man even more angry. Finally he couldn't help but growl. The man's roar scared many people, and people avoided the man like frightened fish. That's when the man raised his fist and hit the ground. Boom! There was a loud voice, and the man smashed a big hole in the ground. The man's expression gradually stopped being confused. He looked into the distance, and now he is the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier stood up slowly. Oh my God! Ned hurried to find Peter Parker, and only Peter Parker could resist this monster here. But Ned couldn't find Peter Parker, because Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy went shopping not long ago. There is danger here, Ned hurriedly said what he had just discovered. Go and untangle the dangerous elements. Link instructed Spider Shadow. The Spider Shadow moved quickly along the shadow, and after a while she saw the Winter Soldier, but compared to the handsome Winter Soldier, she felt that the big fat man next to the Winter Soldier was much more dangerous. This is a tall fat man. The Spider Shadow stared at the big fat man. The fat man also noticed the Spider Shadow coming out of the shadows. The fat man frowned and said to those around him, "Get rid of this annoying person." The young man beside the fat man walked up to Spider Shadow, and took out his gun directly. The youth wanted to kill Spider Shadow. The Spider Shadow swung its fist the moment the young man took out the gun. Before the young man could react, he was punched flying by the Spider Shadow. And the Spider Shadow directly jumped at the big fat man. The big fat man frowned and then clenched his fists and threw at the Spider Shadow. Spider Shadow opened her palm to block the big fat man's fist, but she also felt an extraordinary force. This man is not ordinary. Spider Shadow jumped up lightly and kicked the fat man away with both feet. This man's arm easily withstood her gravity, and even blocked her attack. This guy is very dangerous and should be subdued. At this time people are also retreating. Link walked over among the crowd, and he saw the Winter Soldier and Jin Bin, who was fighting with Spider Shadow at a glance. What a coincidence! Because of the battle between Jin Bin and Spider Shadow, the Winter Soldier also quietly mixed into the crowd. Link looked at Peter Parker, who was rushing a few hundred meters away, and he should stop the Winter Soldier. Link quietly walked up to the Winter Soldier. Because of someone's cover, Link entangled the Winter Soldier's feet with spider silk. The Winter Soldier looked down suspiciously, and then saw a knee suddenly raised. He wanted to block it, but the speed was too fast, and he had no time to block it. Boom! The Winter Soldier's body flew up in an instant, and just when people were wondering, Link had quietly blended into the crowd. The Winter Soldier got up the moment he landed on the ground, and he looked around fiercely. While the Winter Soldier was getting ready for battle, Peter Parker also fell from the sky. Before Peter Parker said anything, the Winter Soldier rushed towards Peter Parker. Boom! Spider-Man's fist collided with Winter Soldier's. The Winter Soldier backed away, but the next second Peter Parker's spider silk smeared the Winter Soldier's face. The Winter Soldier loses his acclamation, and starts tearing the foreign body off his face quickly. But how could Spider-Man miss this opportunity? He kicked the Winter Soldier against the wall. The solid walls were cracked. Link wasn't idle either. He shot spider threads into the shadows, and the next second, these spider threads flew out from the shadow beside the Winter Soldier, and these spider threads entangled the Winter Soldier's body. Spider-Man stepped forward and knocked Winter Soldier out with one punch. Boom! There was a violent explosion at this time. When the smoke dissipated, the Spider Shadow entered Link's shadow and told Link that the big fat man just now made an explosion and took the opportunity to slip away. Spider-Man maintained order and left quickly after finding that there was no danger. It didn't take long for the police to arrive, and Link and the others were taken to a safe place by the teacher. At this time, Ned looked around for Peter Parker, and it didn't take long for him to see Peter Parker quietly blending into the student group. After a while Peter Parker came over and said, "Is there any accident?" Ned nodded to show that there was nothing unexpected. Roll, the teacher said at this time. Then the roll call began. Everyone was there, which reassured the teacher a little, but he didn't expect to encounter an unexpected situation. "Link, did you see Peter quietly joining the student group just now, and Spider-Man appeared not long after he disappeared, and now Spider-Man left him and quietly appeared, don't you think it's too coincidental?" Michelle Jones looked at Lin Kay said that she felt that Link and Peter Parker had a good relationship and there might be something to discover. Link looked at Michelle Jones, the identity of Spider-Man was about to be hidden. Unexpectedly, Michelle Jones has pretty good observation skills. Link tilted his head and said, "I don't know, is there anything else I found?" Michelle Jones shook her head. She said that these are the only discoveries now. Link said, "I'll keep an eye out." Michelle Jones nodded and the two continued chatting. That's when Gwen Stacy joined the conversation, saying, "We're probably going to each go home next." Michelle Jones touched his chin and said, "It's still early, why don't we go play?" "I'm going too." Mary Jane joined the conversation. Link looked at the three girls and said, "Call Peter." The three girls nodded. Of course, Ned is also going to join in. At this time, a motorcycle roared past several people, and Link found out that it was the Winter Soldier. Did this guy get out of the police's grip so quickly? At this time, Peter Parker chatted with Mary Jane, and did not find that the Winter Soldier had escaped. "Why are you here?" Annie looked at Link and his party with a look of surprise. It was such a coincidence that she didn't expect to meet Link and the others. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.